Okay, let's quickly go over the setting. The time is the early 1960s. The place is a Cuban restaurant in a primarily Hispanic neighborhood. And the social situation is that John F. Kennedy was the first Catholic president ever elected. At the time, Catholics were often targets of discrimination, and John F. Kennedy's election gave people hope that racism and discrimination might lessen. He was a symbol of hope for many people. So we're going to look at these elements of the setting as they appear in the story together. Okay, so the time period that this story takes place is the early 1960s. I know this because the first line in the story says, "My sixth grade class had been assigned to watch the Kennedy inauguration on television." And that tells me that the story starts when Kennedy was inaugurated, which is in the early 1960s. And then this is the last paragraph of the story. And she says, "I went to sleep the night of the day President Kennedy died." And I know that that is November 1963. So by looking at the details in the story, I'm able to find out that the story takes place in the early 1960s. Okay, the place in the setting is a Cuban restaurant in a primarily Hispanic neighborhood. I know this for a few reasons. One, if we look at the title, it's called Kennedy in the Barrio, and barrio is a term that is sometimes used to describe primarily Hispanic neighborhoods. I also noticed that the restaurant is called Puerto Habana, and the owner is Cuban. And he talks about having a Puerto Rican or Puerto Ricana president of the United States. And in that second paragraph, people are speaking Spanish. And so all of these clues together tell me that the place is a Cuban restaurant in a primarily Hispanic neighborhood. Okay, so you should know from watching the other videos that the social situation for the setting of this story includes a couple of important ideas. One, John F. Kennedy was the first Catholic president, and he was elected at a time when Catholics were discriminated against. And when he was elected, it showed the nation that it was possible for an oppressed minority or for people who were discriminated against to become president. And so it gave hope to a lot of people that now that a Catholic had been president, it could open the door for anybody to be president. It meant it's possible that somebody who is not white could be president. It's possible that a woman could be president. It's possible that someone of even another religion could become president. So that's part of the social situation, is that John F. Kennedy represented change in that people in America were becoming more accepting of all different kinds of people. And another thing is that he represented hope for change and for a better future. He was a young president, and he wanted to do things like put someone on the moon. A man or woman, nobody had ever gone to the moon before when he was president, and he wanted to develop the space program and do amazing things in America. So it's important to know these things about the setting, because if you don't understand the setting, you're not going to understand the theme. The time and place and social situation of the story really have an impact when we're trying to consider what the author's message is for us. So the setting is very important when we're thinking about theme. So let's look at theme together.